Okay, did counsel, I asked,
Hold on.
oh, I'm sorry.
We're not.
We're not on the record, okay. Off the record then, did you get the drafts?
Yes,
That I
and she was nice enough to print out my copies
Good,
for us.
thank you.
We have to shut it all the way down.
Okay. I'll stay here. We'll be ready to resume when the record's back up.
Yes.
I see we have the good doctor with us, ready to step forward. Okay, thank you. And bring everybody in. And Dr. Weinberg can retake the stand.
All rise for the jury.
Doctor, you can come forward. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody may be seated. It's good to see you again. Ladies and gentlemen, as you recall, when we ended for the day on Friday, counsel for the defendant was examining, questioning Dr. Weinberg, who is still here with us. So, counsel, you may continue, and Doctor, I'll kindly remind you that you remain under oath from last week.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, Dr. Weinberg.
Good morning, ma'am.
I don't have too many more questions for you, okay?
Okay.
All right. So on Friday, you mentioned that you couldn't recall the date that you signed the cause of death report.
You mean the death certificate? That's a different
Is that
document.
what you're asking?
I was referring to the death certificate.
The death certificate.
The cause of death report is a different document.
Okay. Would you like to see the cause of? I want to give you a chance to clarify anything. I want to be fair to you. I have the cause of death report for you to take a look at if you want it.
I'd be glad to take a look at that, although I'm skeptical it's going to answer the
It's
question.
not going to answer the question.
Yes,
Okay.
just because I know how that document is generated and whatnot,
Understood.
and by whom.
So let's move on then. I just wanted to make sure you had the chance to look at that if you wanted to. You collected fingernail clippings of Ms. Falzone.
Yes.
And you do that, why?
In cases where there's any chance that doing so could have evidentiary value, I do so. It's part of my training. It doesn't take very long. It doesn't cost anything. Essentially, there's no downside to doing it. And if you don't do it, then perhaps you've lost an opportunity to collect evidence.
And the evidentiary value of those clippings would be what?
I don't know how far I want to go down this road because I don't think that's necessarily my place to even say. I mean, I have some ideas, but it really goes beyond my scope as a forensic pathologist, and it might be inappropriate for me to discuss that with the jury. My role is the body and collection of evidence from the body, and then turning over that evidence to appropriate other entities for testing. And the nature of that testing is not where my expertise lies, and I don't think it would be appropriate for me to talk under oath about that.
And that's okay. I just want to get a general sense. So,
Okay,
in certain
generally then
cases,
sure.
There might be evidence of value under a person's fingernails. Is that fair to say?
Yes, if we're just going to be general, then I don't mind.
General is fine.
Yes, the general idea is that in an incident where there is close physical contact between a decedent and other individual or individuals, there might be evidence, there might be transfer of material, right? If two people are going at it, it's not hard to imagine that there's scratching taking place and perhaps some DNA from that other individual ends up underneath the fingernails of the deceased individual. And so there's different ways you can either clip the fingernails or some people will scrape them, but the general idea is you're looking for foreign material or foreign DNA that may have evidentiary value to say who was there.
So you made the determination to do that in this case?
That kind of thing is generally a discussion between myself and law enforcement. I think it was pretty obvious to both of us in this case that doing so was warranted. Like I said, we've literally spent far more time talking about fingernails just in these few minutes this morning than it takes for me to do it. So one of the principles in forensic pathology is if something is easy and cheap and doesn't take very long and it has any possibility of having value, do it. Because again, there's no downside to my collecting this evidence, and if I don't do so, you don't want to regret that missed opportunity.
So you did that and you provided the evidence to, was it Trooper Anderson that was in the room with you?
Yes, I believe it was Trooper Anderson who attended the autopsy on behalf of state police that day, and when everything's all said and done, we transfer the evidence from one party to the other, we sign the evidence transfer form and whatnot.
And I think you kind of alluded to this, but you don't make the decision about what happens with that evidence after it leaves the autopsy room, right?
That is correct, yes,
So
ma'am.
you have no role in deciding whether that's tested?
Correct.
We talked on Friday about some potential high-risk complications of pregnancy, just kind of orienting us, including preeclampsia, right?
Right.
And preeclampsia can develop into life-threatening conditions like HELLP syndrome, right?
Like I said, on Friday, it's all part of a spectrum of diseases, is my understanding. I actually, in my mind, I think of it more as HELP to preeclampsia to eclampsia.
Okay,
That directionality
okay.
of severity, that is.
All of those are kind of potential complications, though, of a pregnancy?
Yes, the HELP syndrome of conditions are potential pregnancy-related complications that may occur.
Okay, and just to remind the jury, HELP syndrome interferes with blood clotting.
So the part of the LP is low platelets, and platelets play a role in clotting. So thrombocytopenia, which is the medical word for low platelet count, can be part of this syndrome, and thrombocytopenia could impact a patient's blood clotting.
And that could in turn impact bruising, right?
I mean, what do you mean by impact?
It could make a person bruise more easily.
Yes.
And you said on Friday that you saw no symptoms in Ms. Falzone's history that would suggest that she was at risk for one of these conditions.
I did not see any evidence in the medical records and the history that was provided to me that Ms. Falzone had HELP syndrome or any of that spectrum of disease.
I think you said there were no indications of potential symptoms either, right?
I don't recall the exact wording I used.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Preeclampsia is characterized by high blood pressure.
That is one of the symptoms, yes.
And so one of the red flags in Ms. Falzone's medical history might be elevated blood pressure.
I mean, blood pressure from years previous wouldn't necessarily relate to her blood pressure at the time of, or while pregnant. So.
Okay. But a history of elevated blood pressure could predispose a woman to a condition like preeclampsia.
I don't know. I'm not an obstetrician.
You don't know.
I don't want to testify beyond my expertise as a forensic pathologist.
Do you have any recollection of whether Ms. Falzone did have a history of elevated blood pressure?
I don't remember reading hypertension, which is the formal medical word for high blood pressure, in her problem list from the medical records that I obtained.
Okay. If I showed you a copy of the medical records that you reviewed, would that help you remember if that problem was listed?
I can look again, sure.
Now, counsel, this is page 548 to 554. And so I'm going to have you look, if you find the problem list, and read that to yourself, just let me know when you're done.
Okay.
So one of the medical issues listed in her medical history is an elevated blood pressure reading.
That's incomplete. It reads elevated blood pressure reading without diagnosis of hypertension. That's listed from a single date in May of 2018. Asymptomatic.
And then there's a plan, a recommendation for a blood pressure medication.
It looks like the provider suggested that, but Ms. Falzone left before that could be addressed.
And then if you look on the page before, there's also a prescription in August of 2023 for a blood pressure medication. Is that correct?
There are some medications on this list that are potentially used in association with high blood pressure.
So just to wrap up, Dr. Weinberg, you've done, I think you said somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500 autopsies at this point.
Yes.
And at the risk of sounding totally obvious, but I mean this sincerely, each one of those patients had a brain that you examined, right? Or at least
Not exactly, actually, but
That's
generally,
already-
yes. Generally speaking, yes.
That's a lot of experience that you have examining human brains.
I imagine so, yes.
Okay. And yeah, you felt it was appropriate in this case to conduct a neuropathologist or to consult a neuropathologist?
I thought it was warranted in this case, yes.
Because that's not your area of expertise.
Because I'm not a neuropathologist, you mean? No, I'm not a neuropathologist.
Okay. And Ms. Falzone, just as a reminder, was one of maybe 2 third trimester pregnant women that you've ever examined in your career?
Again, I don't remember the exact number. Performing autopsies on women into their 3rd trimester of pregnancy is not common for any forensic pathologist in the country, I wouldn't think.
I think you had said 1 or 2 that you had done prior, at least on Friday.
That sounds about right.
Okay. And most maternal pregnancy complications arise in the 3rd trimester. Would you agree with that?
I don't know enough. That's more of an obstetrician's place to say. I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. Because you're not an expert in that area, right?
I'm not an obstetrician. I'm a forensic pathologist, and my role is to determine why patients have died.
And you're not an expert in the physiology of pregnancy, right?
No, I'm not.
Or pregnancy complications.
I'm not an obstetrician.
Okay. So what we have in this case is your best professional medical opinion.
Regarding Ms. Falzone's cause of death, yes, that is my job.
But we don't know what the best professional medical opinion would be of a placental pathologist, right?
I'm sorry, I don't follow the question.
We do not know what the best professional medical opinion would be of someone who is an expert in, for example, placental pathology, right? We don't have that information in this case.
Their opinion on what?
On this case.
I don't really follow the question. There was not a surgical pathologist was not consulted in this case, nor was it necessary because surgical pathologists do surgical pathology. They don't determine cause and manner of death. That's not their expertise. That's what forensic pathologists do.
But no one who's an expert in examining placentas reviewed this case.
That's true.
Okay. And no one who is an expert in obstetrics reviewed this case, correct?
And again, it depends on what you mean by reviewed. There is no formal consult from an obstetrician in this case, no.
Because you chose not to obtain one.
Because obstetricians are not experts in cause and manner of death determination.
So we do not know what the best professional medical opinion of an obstetrician would be as to Ms. Falzone's cause of death.
I mean, formally, I suppose not. I'm not quite sure how else to answer that, so I guess I'll just stop there.
That's all the questions I have for you.
Okay.
Do obstetricians typically determine cause and manner of death?
Typically, no. Occasionally, a woman will die during childbirth from very clear medical complications, and in such a scenario, the obstetrician might sign a death certificate. But aside from that very specific situation, no, that's not what obstetricians do. They deliver babies.
You talked over Friday and this morning with defense counsel about several potential pregnancy-related conditions that Christine might have had. If, in fact, she did have any of those conditions, would that have changed your opinion that these injuries were inflicted on her?
No. Even if I knew she had some sort of coagulopathy or clotting disorder, it wouldn't change the nature of how I think the injuries occurred. It would have just rendered her more susceptible to bleeding from those injuries. Yeah, I'll stop there.
One of the last things you talked with defense counsel with was the neuropathology consult. Did you observe something during your autopsy within the brain that made you obtain that consult?
No.
Why did you obtain that consult?
Thoroughness. I mean, obviously, knowing the result, I know now that there was nothing in the neuropathology report that changed any of my previous findings or any of my conclusions. But I had a pretty good idea on the day of autopsy that I might be sitting here one day in a court of law in front of a jury with attorneys questioning me. And kind of like I talked about before, you often get criticized for things you may not have done. I thought it was prudent. I didn't see how it could hurt other than a little bit of time. It does take time, and it does cost money to do a neuropathology consult, but I thought that was time that was worth it. Just, I guess, trying to be more thorough with respect to the neuropathology findings.
Why didn't you feel the need to consult a placental pathologist or pediatric pathologist?
So I think that's actually a fair question to ask. While I am a forensic pathologist in my day-to-day life, I did look at probably hundreds of placentas during my residency training at Ohio State. So it's not like I don't know what normal placenta looks like. When it comes to looking at tissue underneath the microscope for more medical type findings, that is further away from where my career has gone as a forensic pathologist, but I still know what normal looks like. And it's very easy as a forensic pathologist for me to set a very, very low threshold for myself to seek out that kind of help. So I looked at the placenta. I know the placenta was also looked at during the peer review for what it's worth. So I looked at it, the placenta underneath the microscope. I looked at it grossly during the examination. Everything appeared normal. If I had seen something that looked abnormal, I would have availed myself of showing it to a pediatric pathologist or a obstetric/gynecologic pathologist to get some input on, is there something of significance here? But it looked normal. I'm confident that I can recognize normal. And so I just did not see the value that it would have added in this case.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anything further?
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Doctor, thank you very much for your time. Thanks especially for rejoining us this morning. You're free to step down and free to go. You can, keep that back to me. Yes, sir.
Great.
Thank you.
State next calls Emma Quinn.
Here, ma'am. Thank you. Please remain standing for a moment and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give in this case the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
So the microphone is not great, so I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up so we can hear you back here.
Okay.
And we're going to start, if you can introduce yourself to the jurors and spell your name for the court reporter, please.
My name's Emma Quint, EMMAQUINT.
And where do you currently work, and what is your current position?
I work for Effingham Fire Department and York Ambulance as a EMT.
Did you have a different job in December of 2023?
Yes.
And what was your job back in December of 2023?
I worked for Action Ambulance also as an EMT.
For about how long have you been an EMT for? About.
2.5 years, roughly.
I want to turn your attention specifically to December 17th of 2023. Later that morning, did you and other members of Action Ambulance respond to 332 Water Village Road in Ossipee for a call for service?
Yes, sir.
And with respect to that particular call for service, I want to start at the point that you and other medical personnel began treating an injured female, okay? Yes?
Yep.
Where was that injured female when you first saw her?
She was laying on the floor with her head towards the door and her legs angled inside the residence.
Did you see anyone with the injured female?
A male was with her.
Did you see anyone else in that room besides the injured female, the male with her, and the 3 other medical providers who were with you?
No, that was it.
Did you recognize either the injured female or the man that she was with?
No.
With respect to the man who was with that injured female, would you be able to recognize that man if you saw him again?
Maybe, but
Okay.
probably not.
Do you see him here in the courtroom?
No.
So I'm going to refer to him as the man, all right? And we're taking an oral record,
Yes.
so I see you shaking your head, but yes.
Yes.
What was the injured female's condition when you and the other members of Action Ambulance began treating her late that morning?
Not conscious, not breathing. She didn't have a pulse.
What injuries do you recall seeing on the injured female?
I can't remember if it was one eye or both, but her eyes were pretty swollen. There was some blood on her face as well, some bruises.
And where do you recall seeing bruises to her?
Her chest and abdomen. And then I believe there was one on her leg too.
Is it fair to say that your role was not documenting all the injuries, but trying to save the woman's life?
Yes, sir.
And what was your actual work that you conducted in trying to revive the female who wasn't breathing?
I put the AED pads on her in case she had a shockable rhythm. It also helped us read her rhythm. And then I assisted the paramedic further in the residence with passing medications.
I'm sorry I interrupted you. The paramedic, the jurors heard from her last week, but what was her name again?
Paramedic Haberman.
And I think you said AED pads?
Yep.
The jurors heard about that, but if you can refresh their recollection as to what those pads do.
They're like really large stickers. You get 2 of them on your chest. It'll show us if you have any heart activity or rhythm going. And if there was a shockable rhythm that we could treat, we'd be able to shock it with a button and those 2 pads that were on her chest.
And what about other members of Action Ambulance? What treatment do you remember them doing on the woman who had no pulse?
Mike Hunter took over CPR until we could get a Lucas device on her. And I believe Brian Reed stayed on airway the entire time, so providing ventilations for her because she wasn't breathing on her own.
The male who you initially saw with the injured female, was he in the room the entire time that you and the other medical providers were trying to revive her?
Yes.
Did you speak to the male in the room?
Yes.
And for what purpose were you speaking to the male who was there?
We were asking him some questions to help us with her condition, like how long she'd been down for, if any of the injuries were new, we thought was pertinent to her treatment.
With respect to the question about how long the woman had been down for, do you recall what the man's response was?
I believe he said he stepped out for like 15, 30 minutes and he came back and this is the condition he found her in, so at least 30 minutes.
Did you ask the man in the room about any of the particular injuries that you saw to the injured female? You talked about swelling and bruising
Yep.
to her face and abdomen and chest. Did you ask the male about any of those particular injuries?
We asked how long she had the bruises on her eyes just to see if it could be like a new head injury or new trauma or if it was something that was healing. And then we asked how long her stomach had been distended for and if she could be pregnant.
When you asked the man about how long the injured female had bruising to her eyes, what was his response to that?
That he was not going to incriminate himself.
And incriminate, was that the term that he actually used, or is that the term that you're using?
No, that was his term verbatim.
Did the man also talk about his previous interactions with the female with no pulse?
Yeah, he said they got in a lot of physical altercations.
Do you remember him saying anything in addition to that? That they got into a lot of physical altercations?
Not off the top of my head. I wrote down everything I could remember. It might be on that.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to show you one moment. Do you remember being interviewed by police later that day?
Yes.
And we actually have a transcript, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide you with the
Okay.
transcript.
Thank you.
Second, please.
Thank you.
And I'll give you the page references in just a minute.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you to take a look at pages 12 to 13 and also page 20. And what you need to do is review them to yourself. And when you're done reviewing, look up and I'll ask the question, okay?
Okay.
Reviewing that, does that jog your memory as to anything else that the man said?
Yes.
And what else do you recall him saying?
That she hit him as well. Mostly that.
Do you remember him claiming that he was a victim?
Yes. Sorry.
You said that you also asked the man about the woman's abdomen.
Yes.
And what do you recall his response to that was?
He told us that she could not get pregnant, but that her stomach has been looking like that for months at least.
And why did you ask the man about the woman's abdomen? From what you saw, put aside your medical training, from what you saw, what did it appear?
It appeared that she was very pregnant.
For about how long did you and the other members of Action Ambulance try to revive the woman who had no pulse, who was not breathing?
I believe 20 minutes.
And did her condition ever change at any point in time during those 20 minutes of resuscitative efforts?
No, sir.
Ever regain consciousness?
No, sir.
Ever start breathing on her own?
No, sir.
Ever get a pulse or a heartbeat?
No.
One moment. I have no further questions. Defense counsel might have some questions for you.
I have no questions for this one.
Ms. Quint, I thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you.
free to step down and you're free to go, ma'am.
Thank you.
Counsel?
Charles Brooks.
Warren, you agree, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. You may take a seat.
Good morning.
Morning.
If you could start, please, by introducing yourself and spelling your name for the court reporter.
I'm Trooper Charles Brooks, Charles, last of Brooks, Brooks.
What troop do you work for?
Currently I work out of Troop D in Concord, formerly of Troop B out of Tamworth.
And what is your position within Troop D?
Just patrol trooper.
You mentioned that you were previously with Troop E. Did you have the same role there?
Yes.
And when did you work for Troop E?
From 2021 until March of this year.
So were you working there on December 17th of 2023?
Yes.
On that date, were you asked to assist in an investigation regarding the murder of a woman at 332 Water Village Road in Ossipee?
I was.
What was your role in that investigation?
So as a patrol trooper, I was asked to sit with the suspect at the time at the Troop E barracks as he was in a capacity wasn't free to leave.
So at that point, the suspect was being detained and you were sitting with him at the station?
Correct.
Who was that suspect? What was his name?
The suspect was William Kelly.
Do you see Mr. Kelly here in the courtroom today?
I do. Sit in the white shirt with the red tie at the defendant's table.
Ask the record reflect he's identified the defendant.
It will reflect.
So you mentioned your job was to sit with him in a conference room. Why would you need to sit with him there as he was being detained?
So the suspect had been advised of his Miranda warnings by Trooper Andres, and he had advised that he was not willing to speak to law enforcement without his court-appointed attorney. So at that point...
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to direct you to disregard what the witness has just said.
Is it
Everybody
fair to,
clear on that? Okay.
Is it fair to say that
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you, you were told at the very first day of jury instructions, I think you've been reminded since then, and you'll be reminded at the end of the case, that declining to speak to the police is something that the defendant had a right to do, You are not to consider his exercise of that right in any way. And again, I'll just remind you, you are to ignore the witness has just, the last remark that the witness made. You are to strike that from your mind. It's not to play any role in your consideration of the case. Counsel may proceed.
Is it fair to say that when someone is being detained at a police station or a state police barracks, they're not free to move about the station by themselves?
Yes, and that was my purpose.
About how long did you sit with the defendant that day?
It was about 10 hours intermittently with breaks.
And when you say breaks, would you take breaks and go do other things at times?
Correct. Another trooper or detective would relieve me.
What is your standard uniform as a patrol trooper? Is it what you're wearing now?
Correct, what I'm wearing now currently.
Were you wearing that when you sat with the defendant?
Yes,
Does that include a body camera?
it does.
And was your body camera on and running on the 17th?
Correct, and the defendant was advised of that.
When you sat with the defendant over the course of those 10 hours, did he make conversation with you?
He did occasionally.
Would he ever reference Christine Falzone?
Yes.
In what way?
He would bring her up, ask, I don't recall exactly if he had been advised of her status at that point, but he would bring her up, and then he would also make references to his dog and the house.
Was he concerned about the dog and things going on at his house?
I would say, in my perspective, far more than he was about the girlfriend.
Okay, so when you say that, what was his demeanor like when he talked about the girlfriend, Christine?
Not super concerned. He was significantly more concerned about the dog.
One moment, Judge. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, Trooper Book, some questions about your involvement in this incident. You understand?
Absolutely.
Okay. So it's sort of clear from your testimony, right? You weren't on the scene while he was there and she was declared dead in his presence.
Correct.
Okay. So you did sit with him, right, on this day?
Yes.
All right. And that is, you began your shift what time?
Sometime before 2:30. So my normal scheduled shift was supposed to start at 2:30. I think I was called out early, if I recall correctly, for this.
Okay, because it's a night shift that you were supposed to be serving?
Correct.
Okay. And so somewhere around 2:30, and you understand that the police involvement in this incident began around noon of that day?
Yes.
Okay. And you say you sat with him for maybe 10 hours from when you first met with Mr. Kelly, right?
It was approximately 10 hours, like I said, with the breaks.
Okay. So regardless of what the jury finds about his responsibility, this is a man you're sitting with who has been at least awake since noon. We know that, right? Say it out loud.
Yes.
Okay. Who has been through a traumatic incident, fair to say?
Fair to say.
Okay. Has tried to save somebody's life and failed?
I don't know to that.
You don't know about that part of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not.
And been taken into police custody and told he's not going to be let go.
Correct. At that
Okay.
point in time, I was advised that he was in police custody, not free to leave.
All right. So you're sitting with him, and you're telling this jury that you're concerned that he is expressing emotion over his dog, right?
Yes.
Okay. So when you first talked about your role as a police officer, you said, I'm just a patrol trooper.
Correct.
Okay. And you know it's important to be a trooper.
Absolutely.
Okay. But there are certain things you're just not, right? Certain expertise you just don't have, right?
Correct.
Okay. So do you have expertise in grief counseling and therapy?
I do not.
Okay. Do you have experience or expertise in psychology?
I do not.
Do you have expertise or knowledge in social work?
No.
Do you have knowledge or expertise in running a support group or a grief recovery?
I do not.
Okay. Do you have any idea how he's supposed to act after that type of traumatic incident?
Not from clinical standpoint, no.
What's the smile for?
Just sitting here.
Trooper, your testimony is all complete. You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
State next calls Mallory Littman.
Ma'am, would you please remain standing and raise your right hand? You solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. Thank you.
You can introduce yourself to the jurors and spell your name and report, please.
Sure. Good morning. My name is Mallory Littman. My last name is spelled Littman.
What's your current assignment?
I'm a sergeant with the New Hampshire State Police, and I work for the Major Crime Unit.
And we worked with the Major Crime Unit back in 2023.
Yes, I was.
I want to turn your attention to the early afternoon of December 17th of 2023. In your capacity as an investigator with the Major Crime Unit, did you respond to 332 Water Village Road in Ossipee?
Yes, I did.
And did you prepare a report close in time to that call out detailing some of your activities?
Yes.
About when did you get to 332 Water Village Road on December 17th? About?
I got there around 1:40 in the afternoon.
While you were at that address, was there also an assistant deputy medical examiner present?
Yes.
Do you recall who that was?
Yes. Assistant Deputy Medical Examiner Kevin Monty.
Now, based on your experience, is it typical for an assistant deputy medical examiner as opposed to the actual medical examiner or deputy medical examiner Weinberg to be present at the scene of a death under investigation?
Yes.
And from your experience, what is the purpose of the presence of an assistant deputy medical examiner being present at the scene of a death under investigation?
Sure. The purpose of we call them ADMEs for short, is to respond to the scene, to do a preliminary evaluation of the deceased, to facilitate the taking of photographs, and to make an assessment to then report back to the medical examiner themselves.
And on that afternoon of December 17th, was that done? Did you accompany the assistant deputy medical examiner to observe the body of Christine Falzone?
Yes.
And is that also typical based on your experience for a member of law enforcement to accompany an assistant deputy medical examiner to view a body?
Yes, that's normal protocol.
And is an assistant deputy medical examiner a law enforcement officer?
No.
When you accompanied the assistant deputy medical examiner to view Ms. Falzone's body, did you yourself take some photographs as well?
I did.
And for what purpose did you take photographs?
The purpose of me taking photographs is to follow the ADME as they are going through the scene to examine and evaluate the body, and as well as to document the scene in situ or in place before anything is touched or moved, to have that documented by law enforcement.
In addition to you yourself taking photographs, did other investigators subsequently also document the scene at 332 Water Village Road in various ways?
Yes.
And how additionally was the scene documented by other investigators?
Sure. Other members of the Major Crime Unit that work for me processed the crime scene the next day on the 18th
And
by
did that
taking.
include taking the photographs and also some videos as well?
Yes.
And we're going to be reviewing some of that documentation shortly. Let's focus again on the accompaniment of the assistant deputy medical examiner to view Ms. Falzone's body. About when was that?
About 2:35 in the afternoon is when I started taking photos right before we went in to document her body.
And if you said when you went in to document the body, if you can explain where you and the assistant deputy medical examiner went into.
Sure. So normally when we go to document the body, we take photographs approaching the residence or the location of the body. In this particular situation, I took photos as I was walking up the dirt driveway, past a gate, that goes into the property and then into the area that was a single camp-style trailer was where Ms. Falzone's body was located.
And what generally did the assistant deputy medical examiner who you accompanied, what did that person do with respect to Ms. Falzone's body?
He documented her condition as well as took photographs and then assessed her body.
And soon after you and the assistant deputy medical examiner completed that viewing and documentation of Ms. Falzone's body, was Ms. Falzone's body removed from the structure?
Yes, she was.
And for what purpose?
For a autopsy to occur in Concord.
So now let's go over some of the scene documentation conducted by yourself and some other investigators. And we're going to be looking at State's Exhibits 4 through 8. You've seen these exhibits before?
I have.
And there are a number of photos as well as a video of 332 Water Village Road.
Yes.
And of the exhibits that we're going to be reviewing, just some of the many, many photos and videos taken of the scene, either by yourself or by other investigators.
Yes.
Fair to say that some of the photos and the video was not actually taken by you, but by other investigators?
Yes, I took some of the photographs, but some of them I did not take.
With respect to the video and the photos that you didn't take, do they fairly and accurately depict the 332 Water Village Road as you saw it back in December of 2023?
Yes, they do.
With that, let's take a look first at the video.
Okay.
What generally are the jurors going to be seeing in this particular video?
This video is an overview video of the scene at 332 Water Village Road. You can see in this the initial part of the video, the person, Trooper Miller, who is taking this video, is standing on Water Village Road looking at the property.
And for the record, this is State's Exhibit 4. Where is the structure where Ms. Falzone's body was found?
So right up in the left-hand corner of the screen.
Sure. And Judge, can the witness get up and just point that out for us?
Yeah.
So the video lasts about 8.5 minutes. We're going to start playing it, and I'm going to have a couple of questions that I'm going to be asking you while we're playing the video.
Okay.
So let's play the video. Again, it's about 8.5 minutes long. And the first question I'm going to ask you is, we see some yellow tape blowing in the wind. What is that yellow tape that we're taking a look at along the side of the road?
That's crime scene tape that we use to set the stage of what the crime scene is to keep anyone out of the scene.
And with respect to the water flowing along the side of Water Village Road, is that consistent with the weather conditions that you saw when you were there the day before on the 17th?
Yes, it was windy, cold, and raining intermittently when I was there, and then the rain picked up throughout the day.
The structure where Ms. Falzone's body was found, was it enclosed within the general property in any way?
Yes.
And how so?
There was fencing around the entire property and a gate.
And we see some of that fencing here.
Yes.
And also on the left, we see a vehicle on the left, and maybe if you can point that out for us.
Sure. This vehicle over here is the major crime unit crime scene truck that we use to bring all our supplies and keep evidence inside.
The structure that's being walked towards where Ms. Falzone's body was found, is that the main structure on the property?
There is another structure on the property that's the main structure. This is a camp area.
And generally, where's the main structure as we're looking at this video?
It's behind you. You'll see it.
Is actually panning over to that main building?
Yes. This general area here.
It's up to you. You can remain standing, or you can.
I can stand for
And where was Ms. Falzone's body found?
inside the structure, you can see this door that has kind of a makeshift part of it. She was inside that structure.
So the entire structure looks larger from the outside. We're seeing a weathered structure there on the left. If you could explain that for the jurors.
Sure, so the main structure is right here, in the front here, and then there's this weathered structure over here that's kind of built up that was just used for storage that didn't have access to the part of the camp.
And while you were talking, there was a purple object that went up to the camera frame. Just what was that?
That was a nitrile glove that the investigator was wearing and was taking the video. How do we activate the screen so it came up on the screen? This is that extra structure that's used for storage.
From the back here, where is that one-room structure where Ms. Falzone's body was found? Did that structure have any inside running water from what you saw?
No.
What about an inside bathroom from what you
No.
saw? What is that separate structure off to the right with the white colored structure with the red trim?
It appeared to be a makeshift bathroom inside there.
As we look at that single doorway in or out, what's the object on the left of it? I think it'll pan to it in a moment.
I believe it was a surveillance video camera you were referring to.
And did you see what appeared to be other surveillance cameras on the property as well?
Yes.
Did any of those surveillance cameras appear to be functioning?
No.
And this is the makeshift bathroom you were talking about before?
Yeah, there was things in there that could be used for that.
I believe the video is going to be ending shortly, and I've done my questions with the video. If you want to resume your seat, please. So now let's take a look at some photos showing the exterior, and we're
Okay.
looking for the record at State's Exhibit number 5. And are these some of the many photos taken of the outside of that structure where Ms. Falzone's dead body was located?
Yes.
And moving on to another exterior photo, we have State's Exhibit 7. And is this a photograph showing that same doorway that was depicted at the end of the video that we just saw?
Yes, it is.
And is Ms. Falzone's body in this particular photograph?
Yes, it is.
And if you don't mind pointing out for the jurors where Ms. Falzone's body is in this photograph?
Her body is right here, past the threshold, your head pointing toward the door. Supine her back.
And where Ms. Falzone's body is seen here, is that where she was when you accompanied the assistant deputy medical examiner to view her body?
Yes.
We saw it at the end of the video. Is there a padlock hasp on the outside of that single doorway, in or out?
Yes, there is. You can see it in this picture.
So the door would lock from the outside, not from the inside?
Correct.
So moving on to the next photographs, which are going to be State's Exhibit 6. What are we looking at with respect to these two photographs?
Sure. In the top left photograph, I'm taking a photo with my back to the back of the room, looking out toward the door of Ms. Falzone's body. And then the bottom right photo is myself standing at her feet area, looking toward the back of the room.
Do these two photographs depict the entire interior space of that single room where Ms. Falzone's body was found?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you to stand up again.
Sure.
And where is that single doorway that we saw in the last photograph and at the end of the video?
So up here.
And looking at that photo on the left, what is the gray colored object to the right of Ms. Falzone's foot?
This is the air purifier.
And for frame of reference, do we see that same air purifier in the photograph on the right?
Yes.
And again, from what you saw, there was no bathroom in this entire room?
No.
What about a bedroom?
No.
So this is a closer look at the photograph on the left.
Okay.
You're aware that medical personnel provided some medical assistance to Ms. Falzone while she was laying on the floor?
Yes.
And is some evidence of that medical intervention seen in this photograph?
Yes, you can see.
Again, you can see here on top of what I did here, you can see a fluid bag which is attached to her leg.
And there appears to be damage to her legs. If you could explain that for us as well, based on your own experience.
She's wearing green colored pant leggings that are cut down both legs, but my experience are from medical response trying to treat her.
It's not unusual for clothes to be cut away from somebody who's receiving medical assistance.
No.
And with respect to Ms. Falzone, what area are we looking at right here that I'm pointing out?
So this is her abdomen or stomach that's extended and hard. And
From what you saw with respect to Ms. Falzone's abdomen, what did you do?
I believe that she was pregnant.
And the next photograph will be the photograph on the right that we saw before. Oops, I'm sorry. These are actually going to be in Ms. Falzone. They're State's Exhibit 8 for the record. Who took these photos and the photos of Ms. Falzone that we saw before?
I did.
And with respect to a time, again, about when were these photographs taken?
I started taking them around 2:35 p.m. on the 17th, so within that time frame.
And is additional evidence of medical intervention seen in these two photographs of Ms. Falzone?
Yes, you can see in both photographs there's some wires from the AED that were up her chest here and then here as well. And you can see obviously her cut pants in both photos.
And the next and the last two slides is going to be of each one of these photographs individually. And we're going to begin with the photograph on the left.
Sure.
Did you see any visible signs of injury to Ms. Falzone?
Yes, I saw blood on her t-shirt, her face, her hair was matted with blood, and then I saw visible signs of bruising basically on most of her body, her arms, her legs, her abdomen, her face, her back, her shoulders, her legs.
And do we see some of that bruising on her right arm here in the photo?
Yes, this one's here, and then bruising as well as her eyes.
And the last slide is going to be the other photograph of Ms. Falzone. Is Ms. Falzone's body in the same position here as in the last photograph that we took a look at?
Yes, just different angle.
And are additional visible injuries to Ms. Falzone seen in this particular photograph?
Yes, you can see the bruising and swelling of her hands and her arms on this side, as well as on her abdomen and her stomach.
So you testified that Ms. Falzone's body was removed from that structure where you took those photographs and transported for autopsy?
Yes,
After Ms. Falzone's autopsy, did you take a DNA sample from her fetus?
I did.
And how generally did you go about getting a DNA sample from Ms. Falzone's fetus?
I responded to the funeral home where I was given access to Ms. Falzone and her fetus, and I took buccal swabs, so cheek swabs, in the inside of the fetus's mouth, 2 on the left side and 2 on the right side.
And you used the term buccal swabs. That's a term that you're familiar with from taking DNA samples from the inside of somebody's cheek.
Yes,
Did you assign a unique evidence number to the DNA sample you obtained from Ms. Falzone's fetus?
yes, MSL1 and MSL2.
And MSL being what?
Stands for my initials.
One moment. I have no further questions.
Counsel?
Good morning.
Just some questions about your investigation in this incident.
Sure.
And I have your reports here if you have any questions that you need to verify from the reports.
Okay.
One thing I'm trying to figure out is who was the lead investigator in this case? Who was calling the shots?
So Sergeant Kempis Corbally was the lead investigator for this case.
So if we want to blame anybody for choices made as far as what was analyzed, that type of thing, Sergeant Corbally would be who?
We work as a group, but he is the one who was in charge of the investigation, yes.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Appreciate
Sure.
it. So you received the medical examiner's report, the autopsy report in this case. That's one of the things you did.
Yes,
Okay, and you were able to review that.
yes.
And you know what type of evidence was collected from the body of the deceased.
I did not collect it myself, so I wouldn't be able to testify to that. I did review the report, though.
Okay, and when you reviewed the report, you did read that fingernails.
Yes,
Okay. Were you ever ordered by Sergeant Corbally or anyone to have those fingernails examined?
I was not, no.
Okay. And who does that? If you wanted to look into those, find out what blood, dirt, any matter was under the fingernails, who would conduct that examination?
Who would conduct the actual exam?
Yes.
The lab.
Okay, so that's the New Hampshire State Police Lab?
The New Hampshire State Police Forensic Laboratory, yes.
Okay, and that's in Concord?
Yes,
Okay. And all that needs to be done in order to have that examination done is a request by law enforcement to the lab to have those particular items analyzed.
yes,
All right. And you were never tasked with doing that?
no.
Okay. In fact, I have your emails here where you made your request for the state's lab, and you remember saying that we have only one request for the lab for the time being, and the victim was pregnant, and we would like to check the baby's DNA.
That sounds right, but can I look at my
Yeah, sure,
emails?
absolutely.
Okay.
May I approach?
Yes, you may.
Sure. Yep. Yep.
So is that fair?
That's what I requested on that particular day, yes.
Okay. You also, I see from your reports, collected some smartphones.
I did not collect them. I brought them to the lab.
Okay. And there was a number of them.
Yes,
Okay. And were those the smartphones found on the property?
yes.
Okay. And I imagine the reason for those is to try to find you tell me, why would you collect smartphones?
I did not collect them
Why would the police collect smartphones?
to analyze them.
Okay. For what kind of information?
Potential evidence if there was probable cause to do so.
Okay. So to try to find out who the interested parties, both Mr. Kelly and Ms. Falzone, were contacting, right?
I think you're speculating. I don't
No, I'm
really know what you're
you,
asking.
What would you look in a phone for?
Like in like theory of
Yeah.
looking for a phone, you could look for anything on a phone, cell phone activity, call logs. I'm not sure if they had, there's no cell phone service much out there, but any kind of activity you could have on a phone, you can imagine, could be on a phone.
Okay. And you don't know, so you dropped them off at the state lab, you said?
Yes.
Okay. And you don't know what the result of their examination was of those phones?
I believe I just brought them for storage.
Oh, okay. So they weren't even asked when you brought them there to look into them for that potential evidence?
Objection, basis of knowledge.
Did you ask them to do that?
No,
Okay. Did anybody in your chain of command, to the best of your knowledge, ask them to do that?
I do not know.
Okay. So no, right?
I do not know.
You are a technician who looks into physical evidence, correct?
Depending on the case, yes.
Okay. So in other words, if I'm looking for who would look into known associates of Ms. Falzone, that type of thing, that wouldn't be your investigation.
Not in this investigation, no.
Okay. Do you know if any of that went on in this investigation?
To look for in the cell phones
Or just interviews hitting streets, trying to find out who she talked to, where she was?
I know there were interviews done surrounding Ms. Falzone's life, yes.
Do you know the substance of those?
No,
And again, in this case, is it fair to say your capacity was not directing the investigation?
yes,
Okay, and it was, in essence, taking pictures and being at the scene for the assistance of the assistant deputy medical examiner, and bringing certain items to the attention of the state lab at the instruction of the lead investigator.
yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have no questions. Can this witness be released?
Yes, Ms. Lippman, please.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Here you go, thank you.
The state next calls Kevin Netto.
Counsel, on second thought, why don't we take a morning break at this point? Does that work? Sure. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Netto, my apologies. We're going to take a morning break now. We're going to give everybody 10 or 15 minutes. And ladies and gentlemen, please remember all my usual instructions. Don't discuss the case during our morning break. Don't read anything or listen to anything about the case. Don't look anything up about the case. We'll see you in about another 10 or 15 minutes, and then, as we've done, we'll go till about the bottom of the noon hour, and then we'll take our lunch break. All right? I thank everybody very much, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
All rise.
All right, everybody may be seated.
So, Judge, the last two witnesses are mine. We should be done before lunch.
Okay, very good.
After Investigator Netto, if you could read the second of the stipulations before criminalist Maracus takes the stand.
Yeah, all right, I will do that.
So as to my motion for a mistrial.
Yeah, I don't know
do you
how-
want more explanation now or at the conclusion of the break?
I'm happy to do it at either point. I mean, we might as well do it now, and it may extend rather than.
I do, for the reasons indicated at the bench and for these additional reasons, Your Honor, I would move, again, for a mistrial in this case. Trooper, thank you. Trooper Brooks indicated in this case that Mr. Kelly invoked his right to remain silent. I don't believe the state acted in bad faith here in intentionally eliciting that response at all.
Yep.
I do think, however, that this is an experienced trooper who made a statement which we are all aware is verboten in U.S. constitutional law. He indicated that in a custodial setting, Mr. Kelly invoked his right to remain silent. This becomes doubly problematic in this case, where I believe that its cumulative effect creates an additional manifest necessity for a mistrial on top of Your Honor's adverse ruling allowing the state to comment on the invocation of silence to what Your Honor has deemed to be private parties over our objection with the emergency medical personnel in this case. And I think it manifests this way, right? There's the commonsensical understanding of, okay, you're piling on invocations here. And I think we have the uncontested understanding of all of us that a law enforcement officer in uniform on the stand talking about in the hours preceding a violent death, someone invoking their constitutional rights, is something which is incredibly impactful when a jury hears it. But that is on top of the state making a feature of their case, Mr. Kelly's invocation of rights, and using that quote, invocation. Okay? He invoked Attorney Hinckley paused, went back, and had the witness emphasize that he used the word invoked. So this is, as you...
My recollection was that the word was incriminating, not invoked. I could be mistaken on that, but that's what not invocation, but it was, yeah.
Thank you.
That incriminate was the word that he used, yeah.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Yep.
To incriminate myself. And again, the formal trappings in the use of that word are doubly problematic, because I'd like Your Honor to consider it, and for everybody to consider how this plays out when Your Honor reads the jury instructions, right? So we've got this situation where the defense has indicated along, even prior to your move for a mistrial based on the negative effect of that first to emergency personnel refusal to speak. But now you've got a law enforcement officer doing it. And Your Honor correctly immediately stepped in response to our objection.
Yeah, not fast enough, though.
Right. Well, we couldn't. The cat was out of the bag. That's the problem. And Your Honor immediately corrected them, told them they can't do it. But then here's the problem, right? In the jury instructions, Your Honor will talk about if he chooses not to testify, that they can't hold that against him, the Fifth Amendment rights, the indication. And so how are they to square that with the state making a feature of their directs of these witnesses, the fact that he did that very same thing? And I imagine they'll be mentioning that in their closing too, saying that his silence in the face of these individuals after the incident is somehow indicative of guilt. So how are they going to accord all those things in the proper constitutional manner, which does not divest him of...
Well, I did it in my second instruction. I instructed twice, right? Once immediately after the witness said it, and then after the bench conference, I repeated it. And I said he has a right not to speak to police.
I understand. And again,
I'm thinking about this. I don't know how
I get it, Your Honor.
Yep.
And again, any of these things in isolation, say we didn't have our pretrial motion in the EMT piece, then maybe this isn't as devastatingly damaging. It is, and I'd probably make a similar motion, but it may not be as powerful and cumulatively damaging to his constitutional rights, both under the New Hampshire Constitution.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at Remick Remick particularly and Nieper, which say that a curative instruction is generally sufficient. Really, the question here is whether it's sufficient in this case. I got to think,
Right.
that's the decision that I have to make.
And I've laid down the situation as I think we all see it. think of other aspects to it. I'm sure Your Honor will give me access to the record, but I don't want to belabor the point.
Yeah. Okay, I'll hear from the state.
So, Your Honor, I think you're correct that the case law says that jurors are presumed to follow instructions. A single mention of the defendant's silence to police officers during trial has been found by the Supreme Court when accompanied by a sufficient instruction by the trial court not to be grounds for a mistrial. I do agree that Your Honor specifically indicated to the jury he does not have an obligation to speak to the police. And I think what has been made clear to the jury over the course of the trial is that there are two separate entities involved. There are the EMTs and there are the police. And they can differentiate the statements made to EMTs and the statements made to police, especially when Your Honor has told them you cannot consider it when it comes to law enforcement. When it comes to police, you can't consider that. But with the EMTs, they recognize that they are acting not in an official police capacity, and the jurors will be able to separate those two things with the court's proper instruction. I will say that recognizing the sort of problematic nature this has, and if defense counsel is okay with this, I'm happy to have the court bring the jurors in individually and question them. If they can put that aside, I don't know if they want to draw attention to it.
Yeah, this is my concern about saying anything further about it. I think we moved along fairly smoothly from it. I'm sure the defense doesn't agree with that. But
redirect the witness immediately after, Your Honor, and should focus and have him say that was not the reason. The reason I was sitting with him is because he's not free to move out and sort of change the topic.
No. I appreciate Attorney Newkirk's emphasis at the beginning of his argument that he wasn't accusing the state of any sort of prosecutorial misconduct, and I certainly share that. I think you were as surprised and as distressed by it as I was, although you may have done a better job in concealing your response to it. But I'm very unhappy with the trooper. Let me leave it. I'll just leave that. It does surprise me, but
if I could add just two things.
Well, let me just finish. I'm honestly not sure how the earlier remarks cut. Which way they cut in terms of whether this remark had prejudicial effect or not. I'm not sure. So I'll hear you on that.
So again, what Attorney Greco-McKeon's argument is that somehow the jury can differentiate between the EMTs and the police officer. And I'll remind Your Honor about the testimony of the EMTs in this case, and in particular why it will be difficult. Obviously, we made the argument, the legal argument, Your Honor, outside of the presence of the jury, that EMTs are law enforcement adjacent. But what I would say is that the impression of their kinship with law enforcement was further emphasized by the witness in this case, especially, I believe it was Brian Reed from Action Ambulance Services, who appeared in a dark blue uniform with a badge. So, and from these same individuals.
Yeah, it was a.
Right, so the problem becomes you got a uniform badge.
I just need to state for the record, I didn't see a badge, and he had a patch.
He didn't know.
It was an insignia patch.
I think that still agrees.
So Judge, he had a patch on his shoulder. He did have a badge on his chest.
Okay.
But I will say, I believe his testimony was he now works for a different agency. He was not wearing a badge at the time.
That is my recollection.
Okay.
In court, He did wear a shiny badge.
All right.
So again, the problem becomes, and remember, let's take a step back. Attorney Hinckley, in questioning EMT Haberman, at the end in his redirect, said to her, "Well, you've done thousands of these responses as an EMT." I'm paraphrasing here. Thousands of responses as an EMT, but is this? How many times has somebody said that they refuse to incriminate themselves? Just once. Boom. Mic drop. So he is emphasizing this with a great degree of theatricality for the purpose of impacting the jury.
Yeah, I mean it's it's probative evidence. It has considerable probative value if it's within the bounds of the Constitution.
Right, but now it's inextricably intertwined with this officer's unconstitutionally permissible mention of his indication of his right to silence and counsel.
All right, anything the state wants to say?
Again, the focus, I don't disagree that we're focusing on the statement to the EMTs, but it's a statement to the EMTs. It's again been made clear that they were there in a life-saving capacity, that they're not involved in the law enforcement investigation. They testified that we come in, we try to save a life, we leave our supplies and go and turn it over to law enforcement.
Yeah, I mean,
I think they can differentiate between.
I'll just say this. I have thought a lot about my decision on the statement to the EMTs because I realize it's an important decision. I'm very comfortable with that decision. I think it was the right decision. I think it remains the right decision. This testimony raises the question of whether the instruction I gave is adequate to cure the prejudice. And the earlier statement, again, I remain sort of unclear as to whether the earlier statement adds to that. I'm not sure which way that cuts. I'll consider everybody's arguments. So unless there's anything else that anybody wants to say immediately, we'll take another 5 to 10 minutes, but I don't want to take too long. Just like I want to give everybody a chance to stretch their legs, use the facilities if they need, and then let's come back and keep going until 12:30. All right?
All rise. We're off the record. We are on the record right now. All rise.
Sorry about that, everybody. I left your stipulation in the chamber. So I'm not going to rule right now on the motion for mistrial. I'm going to go back. I'll listen to it again. I'll give it some thought. I'll read the cases, but it's a pending issue. We may bring our jurors in and they may proceed. All right, thank you, Mr. Lino. Yeah, let's just wait to give it some.
All rise for the jury.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may be seated. Mr. Renner, if you would remain standing for a moment and raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. Thank you, Your Honor. You may be seated, sir.
For the record, the state does call Evan Neto. Can you please introduce yourself to the jurors and spell your name for the court reporter?
Good morning. My name is Trooper Evan Nadeau, EVANNADEAU.
And where do you currently work?
I work for the New Hampshire State Police, currently assigned to the Major Crime Unit.
You're okay, Mike?
I can speak up?
So The microphone doesn't work that great, so if you can keep your voice up so I can hear you back here.
Sure.
Okay?
I work for the New Hampshire State Police, and I'm currently assigned to the Major Crime Unit.
On December 17th, 2023, did you obtain a DNA sample from a person by the name of William Kelly?
I did.
And do you see Mr. Kelly here in the courtroom?
I do.
And can you please identify him through article of clothing that he's wearing?
White shirt with a red tie.
Did the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant?
It will.
Generally, how did you go about getting a DNA sample from Mr. Kelly, the defendant?
I was assigned to execute a court-authorized search warrant for the body and processing of Mr. Kelly.
Basically, how did you get the DNA sample?
I utilized a buccal swab, a swab sample.
And did you assign a particular evidence number to the DNA sample obtained for the defendant?
I did.
And what evidence number was assigned for the defendant's DNA sample?
EPN 6 and EPN 7.
And EPN standing for?
It's my initials.
Thank you.
All right, Trooper Neto, just a short series of questions. You indicated you were assigned to execute a body warrant.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's a judicial order allowing you to collect evidence from a suspect's body.
Correct.
Okay. And you do that in order so that you can present this jury with any evidence from their body that may be of value to them in determining the allegations against them.
Yes.
Okay. And so Attorney Hinckley talked to you about taking the swab from his cheek for DNA.
Yes, sir.
And you took photos
Yes, sir.
of basically anything that you could so that the jury could use that if they needed that in their determinations.
Yes, sir.
No further questions.
Can this witness be released?
He may. Mr. Neto, thank you. You may step down. You're free to go.
Thank you.
And the state next calls Alicia Maracus, and we can also have that second stipulation read, Judge.
Was that? Okay, well, approach the bench, please. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, the parties have asked me to read another stipulation to you. As you will recall from the other day, a stipulation is another kind of evidence, and it is an agreement between the prosecution and the defense that a certain fact is true, and you must accept the stipulated fact as true. So, in this case, the parties have stipulated that the item with evidence number MAA12 was a sample of Christine Falzone's blood. All right, thank you. And counsel may call the state's next witness.
Alicia Maracus says she's been sworn.
Ma'am, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. Have a seat.
So the microphone is a little hard to pick up, so if you can keep your voice up so I can hear you from back here. And if you can start by introducing yourself to the jurors and spelling your name for the court reporter.
My name is Alicia Maracus, ALICIA
Great. And where do you currently work?
I work at the New Hampshire State Police Forensic Laboratory.
And what is the New Hampshire State Police Forensic Laboratory?
The Forensic Laboratory is the laboratory for all state law enforcement agencies to bring evidence from crimes for testing in order to help answer questions about the crime. And so we have different units like fingerprints or DNA testing, toxicology, drugs, and we will test items of physical evidence.
And what is your position at the state lab?
I am a forensic scientist 3.
And for about how long have you been a forensic scientist with the state lab?
Almost 18 years.
And what are among your duties as a forensic scientist with the lab?
I work specifically in the forensic DNA unit. So my main duty is analyzing items of evidence to determine DNA profiles, if any are present. That involves doing the laboratory work, interpreting the profiles, calculating statistics, writing reports, testifying in court. I also peer review other people's work in my unit, and I'm also the state administrator for the state of New Hampshire of the National DNA Database.
We're going to be discussing DNA and DNA analysis shortly. If you can start by just briefly summarizing your educational history for us.
I received a Bachelor of Science in Forensic Science from the University of New Haven in West Haven, Connecticut in 2001.
And if you can discuss with us your professional training and experience as it pertains to DNA and DNA analysis.
I underwent about 9 months of training at the forensic laboratory that covered a broad range of samples that I would expect to see as items of evidence for DNA. The training involved the actual laboratory techniques. So for that, I would observe a more senior analyst. Then they would observe me doing the laboratory procedures, and then I would work independently on mock evidence as part of training cases. I also got training in various topics in DNA, such as mixture interpretation, calculating statistics, writing reports. And after working on numerous mock cases on my own, I then completed a competency test, which involved more mock cases, again, doing the laboratory work through writing the reports, and an oral examination competency test. And once I passed those, I was eligible to work on actual evidence that had been submitted to the lab.
Do you have any continuing professional educational obligations that you have from year to year?
As a DNA analyst, we're required to do 8 hours every year. Most of us, including myself, do more than that. We typically will travel to a multi-day conference. I often attend the conference for the National DNA Database.
And again, about how long have you been a forensic scientist with the lab? About?
Almost 18 years.
And over the course of those 18 years as a forensic scientist, about how many separate cases have you conducted DNA analyses for? About?
Over 1,000.
Have you previously testified and been qualified in courts of law as an expert on DNA analysis and given expert testimony on that subject matter?
I have.
About how many times have you been qualified as an expert on DNA analysis?
Almost 30.
And in what courts have you been qualified as an expert?
The majority of the superior courts in New Hampshire, as well as a few district courts in New Hampshire.
Judge, at this point, the state does move to have this witness qualified as an expert in DNA analysis.
The witness is so recognized.
And we've mentioned DNA several times already. I'm sure it's a term that the jurors have heard before, but if you can just generally explain what DNA is.
DNA is the genetic material that's found in most of the cells of your body that is basically the directions for how your body works as well as how your body looks. You inherit your DNA from your parents, so you get half from your mom and half from your dad, and everybody's DNA is different with the exception of identical twins.
You mentioned that the DNA in every cell in a person's body is the same.
It is.
So if DNA sample is drawn from blood cells, that would be the same as if they were drawn or taken from a buccal swab from my cheek?
That's correct.
How is a DNA profile? What is a DNA profile?
So what actually makes up a DNA profile is a string of numbers. And what those numbers tell me is how many times a section of your DNA repeats. So if I have a DNA profile that's not a mixture, it's just a DNA profile from one person, I look at 23 different locations, And at those locations, I expect to see 1 or 2 numbers. 2 numbers if you got different things from your parents, and 1 number if you got the same. So for instance, if your section of DNA at this particular location repeats 15 times on the part you got from your mom and 16 times on the part you got from your dad, I would see 1516 at that particular location. And so the DNA profile is just made up of a string of numbers as well as a marker that indicates male or female.
Can DNA analysis be used as a means of identification?
It can, because everybody's DNA profile is different, with the exception of identical twins. We are able to develop DNA profiles from items of evidence and then compare them to DNA profiles obtained from known samples from individuals in a case, such as a suspect or a victim, and compare them to see if the DNA could have been left by somebody potentially involved in the case.
And you also said that there is a relationship between a person's DNA and the person's biological parentage?
That's correct. You inherit your DNA half from your mom and half from your dad.
So can DNA analysis and a comparison be used to determine the statistical likelihood of a particular person being a child's biological parent?
I can talk about basically the likelihood of seeing the child's DNA profile if a particular person is the biological father, yes.
So with that scientific background in mind, let's discuss the particular analysis that you conducted in this case. Did you generate 3 DNA profiles for 3 known DNA samples?
I did.
And what were the 3 known samples for which you generated DNA profiles? And if you need your report to look at, please let us know.
I received buccal swabs, which is a known sample, from William Kelly, buccal swabs from a fetus, and a known blood sample from Christine Falzone.
And did you compare the 3 DNA profiles generated from those 3 known samples?
I did.
And what were the results of your comparison?
Assuming that Christine Falzone is the biological mother of the fetus, William Kelly could not be excluded as its biological father.
Is a determination that a particular person is the father a conclusion that the lab provides, or is it a statistical result that you come up with?
So we can either say someone is not excluded, which means essentially they're included, or we can say they're excluded. If they're not excluded, which means they're included, we provide a statistical calculation as to how likely it is to see the child's profile if a particular person is the biological parent.
And what was the statistical conclusion in this case as a result of your analysis?
So I considered 2 propositions. One is if William Kelly is the biological father of the fetus, or a random unrelated person is the father of the fetus. And I found that it was at least 10 trillion times more likely to see the genetic results, meaning the child's DNA profile, if William Kelly is the biological father of the fetus rather than a random unrelated untested individual.
And with respect to that statistical finding of fatherhood here, you said 10 trillion, which is 1 followed by 13 zeros, am I right?
Correct.
No further questions.
All right, Ms. Maragis, just a couple questions.
Okay,
You indicated you work for the New Hampshire State Police Labs?
that's correct.
Okay. You've worked there for 18 years, did you say?
Almost 18 in February.
Okay. That's a pretty big and complex organization, fair to say?
Sure.
Capable of a great deal.
Sure.
You can actually say yes and be proud of it, I think, right? You indicated to the jury, you said that we analyze evidence in order to help answer questions about a crime, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you do that at the instruction of law enforcement.
They submit the items of evidence, yes.
Right, so the lead investigator will submit items to you or to your lab, and you can then put them through rigorous scientific analysis.
Correct.
And that can be anything from physical evidence, right?
Yes.
To information technology like cell phones.
Yes.
Okay. So anything that science can crack, you guys essentially have the resources to really look into that for its evidentiary significance to bring to juries.
I would not say anything that science can crack, but many things. You heard the units that are in the laboratory that I referenced earlier.
In your specific area of expertise is DNA?
Correct.
Okay. And so just in layman's terms, we can say the results of your findings were that the fetus that passed away in this case was William Kelly's daughter.
In my opinion, William Kelly was the biological father, yes.
For the questions, may this witness be released?
She certainly may. Thank you very much for your time and your testimony. Before you step down, please go.
Thank you.
The rest, Judge.
All right. Good time for a lunch break then? Leave a little earlier than we thought. Ladies and gentlemen, the state has rested its case. That means that the state has finished presenting all of its evidence. This is, I think, an appropriate time for us to take our lunch break. I know it's earlier than I said. I was ready to go a little longer, but this seems to be an appropriate breaking point. So enjoy your lunch. Let's be back here at, let's say, 1:15. All right, ready to come back at 1:15? Remember my usual instructions, as always. Do not discuss this case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Don't look anything up about the case. Don't let yourself listen to anything or read anything about the case. And we will see you after lunch. Thank you.
All right.
The other, and considering them all at the same time. I suppose it's, I think that is just expecting too much of the jurors. And I don't think that it would really be fair or possible to expect them to sever what they heard from the trooper this morning from everything else that they've heard from the ENTs. I just don't think that the jurors can disconnect those two things the way they might be able to if we did not have the evidence regarding the EMTs. So really, the bottom line is I just can't say with the necessary confidence, the necessary degree of confidence, that the trial will continue to be fair. So I'm granting that motion is granted, and we will put it down. The same bail order, remains. Mr. Kelly will be held preventively. We'll put it down for a status conference, and we'll proceed from there. If there's anything anybody would like to put on the record now, you're very welcome to, but that's my rule.
I would just say that I understand in cases like this, they're incredibly serious, incredibly serious for all involved, including the state and the families. I admire and respect your adherence to the rule of law and making sure that the stakes in the trial are not held against Mr. Kelly.
Okay. All right. I thank everybody for your hard work, and we will get something on the calendar, and we'll see you then. Thank you.
All right. We are off the record. No.
sure you want time to
I'm happy to connect.
Absolutely, yeah. We can do it tonight, it doesn't have to happen today, so whatever.
No,
Go talk to them. Are you talking to them about picking stuff up? We need to do that today?
No, we can do it another time.